Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regular town council meeting for the town of Southern Shores. This beautiful Tuesday, May the 7th, 2024. We welcome everyone who's here. Glad you're with us tonight. If you could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'll call for a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Unfortunately, two of our council members were not able to be with us tonight, so we are a council of three tonight. And our first business item is to adopt an agenda. I would like to propose a minor revision that we move number 10 under new business to the first item that we take up under new business. That's my motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We now have an approved amended agenda. Council, we have a consent agenda with 4 different items. These are on pages 3 through 5 of your book. They include minutes and 3 budget amendments, equipment leases, document scanning, and cemetery. Is there any discussion about the consent agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Tonight is a very special night. We have a very special pair of guests. Chief Cole, may I invite you up to take care of this for us?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'd like to call up Officer Thomas Long, our K-9 handler, along with our K-9 Artie. He's going to do a short presentation for you, give you a little bit of a heads up on the things that he has done to get to where he is today.
Very good.
Thomas?
Thanks.
All yours.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Chief Cole and Deputy Chief Slagle, for inviting me to do this presentation today. I am Officer Thomas Long. I'm a patrol officer with the Southern Shores Police Department, and I am the K-9 handler for the department as well. I'm joined today by my best friend and partner, K-9 Artie. So Artie is a Dutch Shepherd. In the law enforcement community, we refer to him as a single-purpose K-9, which is a bit misleading. But essentially what that means is that he is not an apprehension dog or not a bite dog. All the work he does is centered around his nose and finding things. So Artie was born May 5th, 2022. Just 2 days ago, we celebrated his 2nd birthday. He enjoyed a nice meatloaf cupcake with the family. And he moved to the U.S. in August of 2023, which is when we met him. The chief, deputy chief, and the town manager joined me in going to the place where we selected Artie. And we looked at a few different dogs and decided that Artie was just the one for Southern Shores. So Artie is trained with commands in Dutch, actually, not English. And if it's okay with you, I'd like to demonstrate a few of those commands, some obedience type things.
Perfect.
Is that all right?
Yes.
All right, let's go up front. So obedience is the foundation of everything that we do. So it's really important that he is good with obedience. If I want Artie to lay down, I could tell him off. If I want him to sit, I could say seat back. If I want him to come back to my side, I can give a recall command. So I slap my leg and I say, pass. If comes down and sits by my side. He's a really good dog. He does really well with this. And we can heel together. Look. He follows by my side. Stays around here. Right. Oh, bleiben. I can tell him to stay with bleiben. And I can bring him back to class. Now, a really cool thing about Artie is that we don't have to use words, or I don't have to use words to give him commands. I can also use hand signals, which is helpful if there's ever an event where we have to be particularly kind. Tell him to go down with that, or I can tell him to come up with that, or come back to my side. And he does really well with dogs.
Nice, Artie.
So Artie has always been really good with obedience. In school, the other handlers referred to him as King Artie III because he was just so amazing. He's extremely social. I guarantee you he's loving every moment of being here tonight with all of you. He loves being around people. He loves snuggling up, as you saw earlier. So Artie and I started training with Ventosa Kennel in Scotland Neck, North Carolina, October 31st. We attended a 6-week basic handler school where we did daytime and nighttime training just to make sure he and I could function as an effective team in both types of environments. That class I attended had the largest amount of canine units that Ventosa Kennels has ever taught at one time. There were 19 handlers, so 19 officers and dogs at the same time. In the bottom left-hand picture, you can see about half of us in a parking lot at nighttime doing some obedience training. We try to train in different environments, rural, urban, just to make sure that we can do everything efficiently in all types of environments. And so it's pretty neat to see 19 dogs all in a parking lot doing different commands, walking circles around each other. During that time in Ventosa Kennels, Artie and I had to certify on all of these different skill sets in order to become a certified narcotics detection and tracking team. So first, like I mentioned, obedience was fundamental to everything. We had to test on off-leash obedience, meaning he had to follow all my commands and do a lot of things off-leash. We also had to do an agility course, which you can see in the top picture there. That's one of the obstacles he had to overcome, was an A-frame structure. In the right-hand picture, you can kind of see in the background some hurdles that he had to jump over. All of this was done off-leash as well. The next few topics listed there deal with narcotics detection. So in order to be a narcotics detection team, we had to find hidden drugs in those different areas. First was building searches. So a trainer would hide drugs in a room like this or a warehouse, and he would tell us to go in and go find it, or tell us to go find it, or let him know if there were no drugs present in that room. Because just as important as it is to find drugs is to know that there are no drugs in a particular vehicle or room. We also had to search open areas like a field, a wood line, a junkyard, parking lot, and we were able to certify on that. Vehicles, obviously, was another area that we had to learn to search, and that's the one we utilize most here on the street. We also had to do parcel detection, which is things like packages, stuff you would send through the mail, and even luggage. Is a bit difficult, but Artie was able to certify in that as well. Another major focus of his training was tracking and scent discrimination, which I'll get into a little bit, but it's essentially just following the footsteps of someone that you're trying to find. And then article search was the last thing that we trained on. Imagine you throw your keys in the middle of a field and you want to find them. You can give him the apport command, that's the Dutch, and he'll go find it. Or if you're chasing a bad guy and he throws a handgun and throws his identification card while you're chasing him, after you find him, you can go back along that way and give the command, and he'll look for things that the suspect may have thrown along that path. And he's really good at all that. So we had to certify on all of those skills. So these are the list of narcotics, or this is the list of narcotics that Artie has been imprinted on or trained to detect. If you look at the list, you'll notice marijuana is actually not one of the drugs. And that was a deliberate decision by the police department. Right now, as it stands, marijuana is still illegal in North Carolina. But if, say, hypothetically, the state was to pass a bill tomorrow saying that it was legal, all of a sudden, just like that overnight, all canine dogs who were imprinted on marijuana could no longer be used for that purpose. Because they can't tell us the difference between marijuana or cocaine. They just tell you that there are drugs present. So he is not trained on those. In the picture on the right, you'll see an example of a set of training aids, much like the one that we have. There's a scale on the left for control of being able to keep track of your substances there. And then you can use those substances on the right during your shift or training during the week to hone his skills. The police department mandates that we have 16 hours of training every month to keep his skills sharp, which is on par with federal regulations as well. So for tracking, there are three main reasons why we would track. These are not necessarily all of them, but the three main ones. The first being the most common is a suspect at large. So imagine one of our brave, courageous police officers of Southern Shores tries to stop a car for speeding, and they pull the car over, jump out of the car, and run away because they have drugs on them or something. Sometimes these young whippersnappers leave us in the dust. And if they do, we can pick up the track and we can find the suspect wherever they may be, in a creek, in bushes, in the woods, in a house. Artie can lead us there. Another reason why we might track is for elderly patients with Alzheimer's, dementia who wander, which has happened in this town and will continue to happen. Artie and I can go to the house where they left from, assuming they were on foot, get an article of clothing from them, and start a track to try to find them. And then the last one I have listed here is the scariest for me, having kids of my own, is having a young child who just wanders out of the house and doesn't know any better and gets lost. Or perhaps a young person or an elderly person with a mental disability, and they wander as well. We can find them for the family as well. During training, we practiced on all sorts of environments such as grass, dirt, you can even track in water. Asphalt and gravel, concrete, those hard surfaces are the most difficult types of surfaces for a dog to track on, just because there's not as much odor that sticks to the ground. And when you walk on dirt and grass and vegetation, you actually kick up a lot of odor that adds to the scent picture that Artie has in his mind when he's tracking someone. Now, being a Southern Shores Police K-9, Artie sees the face of the public all the time. In fact, earlier today, we attended an after-school program with about 30 to 50 kids and did a demonstration for them, did a question and answer, and had a lot of fun with all of them. Artie is really, really good with children. He was a prime example. He was swarmed by elementary school kids and loved every minute of it. He goes with me on beach patrols whenever we're able to. And in the top right, you'll see a package there that was delivered to us. We've actually received Artie has received a lot of donations of tasty dog treats. In fact, I think we got some today from one of our kind residents. So that's been wonderful. Now, as far as funding for the whole program, we've received a number of grants, first of which was the American Kennel K-9 Reunited grant, which Chief Cole applied for and received. That helped pay for half of the total cost for Artie and the training, which included lodging as well. So that was a wonderful grant that we were able to get. That middle picture, you'll see a black and a red bag. That black bag is referred to as a buddy bag. It's full of medical supplies, anything that Artie might need, from a splint to gauze to tweezers to pull ticks off. It is jam-packed with a lot of good stuff. And that red bag has a respirator in it in case he ever needs oxygen. On the right-hand side, he's very excited to do some work. On the right-hand side, you can see Artie's wearing a vest-type device there. It's actually a fitting kit that we were able to get from Spikes K-9, a grant through them for a ballistic vest. So that helps provide them the size to make a ballistic vest for Artie, and we're about 8 weeks out from receiving that. So that's been wonderful as well. Last of all, before I do my final demonstration, these are just some numbers of things that we've done. Artie and I graduated from the school in December, and as you know, it's been the slow time of year for the beach. Even though that's the case, we have had about 13 deployments since we've hit the streets, which is just amazing. I guess it's not amazing. It's good for us, but not good for the community as a whole that we've had to be used that much. During that time, Artie has assisted in the seizure of methamphetamines, marijuana, crack cocaine, and even fentanyl. And so I've been very grateful for him for getting that off of our streets, as well as other streets in this community. As you see by the bottom pie chart there, part of it's cut off, but that details the different agencies that have requested me and Artie. Chief Cole has been very kind to us in allowing us to assist other agencies. You'll see that Southern Shores and Kitty Hawk Police Department are the two that utilize Artie the most, which is a good thing. We know our officers are doing good work. But we've helped out the Kill Devil Hills Police Department, the Nags Head Police Department, and the Sheriff's Office as well. So he's been able to do a lot of good work, and we're excited for the busy time this summer to come up, see what kind of drugs he'll be able to find. Now, that was it for the presentation. I do have a demonstration. Before the town council meeting started, I hid a training aid which mimics the odor of fentanyl. It's not actual fentanyl because that'd be way too dangerous for us to train with. But it's a training aid that mimics that odor. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to show you what it looks like when Artie does a building search and what it looks like when he actually finds the narcotics. And then after that, I could take some questions if you have any for me as well. Okay.
Great.
So every time I do any type of activity, I start out with obedience because it is the foundation of everything. All right, I'm going to give him a search command, and he's going to begin searching on his own. I call it the cursory search. This promotes independent work and helps facilitate thinking and problem solving in his mind. I'll walk around with him. He's going to do his own thing. And if he finds the drugs on his own, that's wonderful. If he doesn't, what we do on vehicles as well is we'll do a second go round, or in rooms, we'll go around the room a second time. And I'll detail different areas for him to search, maybe places he didn't check during his cursory search. But he's usually pretty good and finds it on his own. Are you sitting there? It's okay. So you're gonna notice he's sniffing everything. As a canine handler, it's my job to make sure he checks as many areas as possible on his own. So he likes to smell low to the ground, which is good, because odor is like smoke, it falls to the ground. If he comes near you, he's extremely friendly, you don't have to worry. He's just sniffing right now. And if he hadn't found any drugs yet, I would start detailing different areas. Like I could tell him to search down low, or I could tell him to search up high. So he's searching really hard right now. And you see he's set all of a sudden. Now he's going to start looking between me and something that's under that chair. It's him telling me, he said, "Hey, Dad, the drugs are right there." So that's what he's doing. And he's going to stay there. I can't get him to move unless I pull him really hard. And I'm going to reward him with his favorite toy in the world. He might get a little rambunctious, so I apologize. But all of this is a large game for him. Tracking, narcotics detection, obedience is a game. And he's trying to find this reward that I'm about to do. He knows that if he smells drugs, he's going to get his favorite toy. So now he's a happy one.
Yay!
I'll let him enjoy that. If you have any questions, I'm more than willing to answer them.
How many other canines are there in the county?
There are 9.
9.
And every week we gather, we get together on Thursdays and train for a few hours a day.
Okay, good.
It's good. It's very good for him to be around other dogs as well. And I get the opportunity to learn from those other handlers too.
Okay. Thank you.
Has there been a situation where multiple dogs have been engaged in an activity?
So for him, there hasn't been, but there are times when you're tracking someone that you will get multiple dogs. They had one recently, I think in Manio, a gentleman set fire to some of the grasslands, and they got 2 dogs to come and run 2 different tracks, and they did find them. Yeah, but Artie has not been a part of a multi-dog event yet. All right.
Well, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you
Thank you.
for all that you do to keep our community safe, and thanks for taking care of Artie.
Not a problem. Thank you all very much.
All right.
And thank you very much.
Okay, I would prefer to go out there with Artie and do some more training, but we have to muster through the rest of the agenda. So next is our staff reports, and we'll hear from our Deputy Town Manager and Planning Director, Wes Haskett. Good evening, Wes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of council. Reporting for April tonight. I'll start with permits. There were a total of 65 permits issued in the month of April. Those consisted of 13 zoning permits, 25 building permits, 13 zoning permits, and 1 lot disturbance stormwater management permit. With respect to fees, we collected $11,919.01. With respect to code enforcement, there were 7 warning citations mailed for solid waste ordinance violations. With respect to our land use plan update, we're still waiting for DCM to provide us suggested revisions based on submitted comments. I think this is the 3rd time I've told you this. And then we should be able to move forward with our public hearing. 13 Skyline Road landmark designation. The Landmarks Commission will most likely consider designation of 13 Skyline Road as a historic landmark at their May 28th meeting. If that is the case, we will add the public hearing for you all to consider designation of 13 Skyline Road as a landmark at your June 4th council meeting. And lastly, the Town Planning Board will meet this month on May 20th at 5 o'clock here in the Pitt Center. And the purpose will be for the board to reconsider ZTA 2403, which is a zoning text amendment to establish commercial design standards. The board will also have a discussion about affordable housing. And that's all I have for y'all. Y'all have any questions?
Should we call the Division of Coastal Management?
We can reach out to them for sure.
Okay. Because they have had it for a while, right?
They have.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah, I know. It seems like we got lucky the first time, and so now we're spoiled thinking it should happen faster. And no, I get it. Okay. Anybody? Thank you, Wes.
All right. Yes. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Chief Cole?
Thank you again, Mayor, members of council. The monthly report for April 2024. As you can see, we had 1,508 calls for service. It's about 79 more compared to last year for April. The breakdown of the incidents, which were actually the crimes that are reported, we had 8 for a total of 13 charges. Under the criminal arrests, we had 6, which resulted in a total of 10 different charges. Citations, officers conducted 59 traffic stops. They handed out 5 written citations and another 50 warning citations. And we had 3 local ordinance, and those were failure to display for parking. And we had a total of 3 reportable motor vehicle accidents for the month of April. As you can see, the pie chart, that just breaks down some of the calls for service. Any questions on the monthly report?
Looks like we're good.
Okay, just a couple of other things. Tomorrow morning, there's a bunch of, I say a bunch, there's a few of the officers from, it's called Team Raleigh. They're police officers. It's a Raleigh, Team Raleigh cycling group. They will be and have been conducting what they call end of watch ceremonies. They'll be at our police department tomorrow morning at 08:01. What they're doing is they'll be stopping in Nags Head and Kill Devil Hills, and then they're going to be stopping here. And what they do is they do an end of watch, because we lost, it was way before my time, but an officer, Hemmelwright, who had passed away of a heart attack after I think it was a rather large bar fight on the beach. And they'll be doing an end of watch, pay respect for and honor for the officers, the fallen officers. And a little bit of a background, Raleigh Police Department Foundation, it's a nonprofit. And one of its missions is honoring the fallen officers and supporting the surviving co-workers and their families. The mission is carried out by Team Raleigh Cycling Group. This group consists of many officers from not only Raleigh Police Department, but several local, state, and federal agencies. And they ride every year from Raleigh to Washington, D.C. And this will be no exception this time. And what they'll be doing is their further mission and is to reach a greater portion of North Carolina agencies. Is what they've done is they have a smaller group, which is the group that'll be coming here, that we're leaving Calabash, North Carolina on May 5th. And they're actually going to be cycling to Moyock after they leave here tomorrow. And then they'll be meeting up with completing close to 40 end of watches. And then they'll be meeting up with the local law enforcement bike groups united in Chesapeake, Virginia. And from there, there'll be a rather large group that'll be riding from there up to DC for Police Week. So we look forward to that, and we're going to take care of them, water them, feed them, those types of things first thing in the morning before we help them to get over the bridge and get on their way. We've worked it out with Currituck to get them to Moyock. And just one other thing, we will have our community resource office starting pretty quick, another week or two. And his name is Garrett Jones. His brother, Dylan, was our last CRO who went on to college. So we've tapped his brother to assist us. And I'm pretty confident that he's going to work out just as fine as his younger brother or his older brother did. And that's all I have. Anything else?
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Chief Limbacher?
Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
So for the fire department for the month of April, total of 76 calls. Summer's upon us apparently. So 6 alarms, 1 each of smoke, odor of smoke, dispatched en route, assist invalid in public service, and assist government agency, and 4 service calls, which you all know is our sign and beach realtor program. So that's heating up as well for the summer. 1 carbon monoxide incident, 1 natural gas leak, 1 motor vehicle accident without injuries, 56 EMS calls, and 2 structure fires. So again, 76 calls for this month. Last year at this time, we were at 50. So definitely way ahead this year. Any questions on that monthly report there? Pretty simple. Sheila, can you pull up that first picture with the back porch? So I just wanted to go over one thing that I always try and cover, something that's kind of out of the ordinary for us. The other one, yeah, that one. So last Monday, the 29th, Nags had a second alarm fire on Oregon Road, which we were dispatched to. And in the meantime, our crews were diverted to Station 16 because they got a pretty good handle on it. Nags did a good job grabbing that first structure fire. Of course, my crews were obviously kind of like, oh, what a bummer, you know. But with that said, about 45 minutes or an hour later, I don't have the exact time, I sent Cliff the report, but they got dispatched to this. And what this was came out as 2 people trapped on the back porch. And our engine rolled up with 5 of probably my hardest hitting, biggest guys that we have, which was worked out perfect. So if you go to the next picture. And the only reason why I say it is because this is particularly special to me, because these 5 guys all started with me. So some of them are Nags Head, some of them is EMS, one of them is Duck, and one of them is an IT director. Addison's in college, but I would just say that they couldn't have gotten a better crew. They did a really good job. I was really, really proud of them. So just so you know, we're out there doing good things, and you're in good hands when these guys are coming.
That's awesome.
It's a young man's game for sure. So any questions?
Thank you for sharing that, Chief. That's good for us all to be reminded. that you started these guys off and they're still with you. So,
Yeah, Logan's probably been the longest. He's been there 10 years, well, going on 11 years. But Noah, Chris, they were all in that same group. So,
Somebody was talking about this fire last week, and they were surprised to see a Southern Shores fire truck be the first response to it. So it's kind of an
I'll
interesting
tell you what,
dynamic.
I say it all the time. We're down here, we really have to work together because we're not resource rich. And this is a prime example. It was a good call by Deputy Chief Height to put our engine in their station, mainly because Noah works for him.
Mhm.
So he knew that if there was another call, Noah knew the area, even if it was a general medical call. He didn't know, obviously, this would happen, but he knows the area, he knows their process and how they do things. So our fire department benefit everybody. Now, I'm not saying that Nagston doesn't, because they've been here many times as well. They're very giving. So we're very lucky that we have a good relationship with them.
Fantastic.
it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Chief, I'd like to commend you, the letter that you put out that talked about, we have a volunteer fire department with 2 personnel and maybe a 3rd coming on soon. And the tax implication of that, if we had to go to a professional force, I thought the letter was pointed and it was good. And hopefully it's a wake-up call for a lot of citizens that we need more volunteers at the fire department. Otherwise, your respective tax bill will go up accordingly because we would have to have, I think, 10 to 12 additional professional
12
firefighters.
12 people, yep.
Yeah, 12. So I commend you for putting that letter out there, and I encourage everybody to read it and take it in, please.
You're welcome.
Thanks again. Thanks, Rob, for reminding us of that. And hopefully we'll continue to share that letter with our community. Next, we have our town manager, Cliff Ogburn. Good evening, Cliff.
Thank you. First 2 things I wanted to go over were just kind of recapping 2 events that took place here in town recently. First being the Flat Top tour. From what I understand, there were 1,013 tickets sold this year, which I believe is a record. 3/4 of those tickets were sold from online ticket sales. There were some donations received in conjunction with the tour, including from merchants at Southern Shores Crossing where the tickets were sold. And so due to the success, we can anticipate there'll be a fairly large influx of money into the Flat Top Preservation Fund. And of course, as you know, with that Outer Banks Community Foundation holds that money, and the town, of course, is eligible for receiving some of those funds for the upkeep and education of the Flat Top. Of course, earlier that day, we officially dedicated our Flat Top at 13 Skyline. Thought we had a good turnout. It was certainly a beautiful day for it. Place looked great. Again, thanks to Chief Cole and Public Works for the work that they did to make it look good. I want to thank also Tam McCreef. She gave a presentation that morning about the legacy of Frank Stick. Lee Whitley spoke about the purpose of the town's Historic Landmark Commission. And Packy Regan represented the Outer Banks Community Foundation, who, of course, was the seller of the property. And he shared some thoughts about what the building had meant to them in years past. And he also officially turned over the keys to Mayor Morey. And then we had cake, good cake. We had some tables set up in the house during the Flat Top tour. We had some old prints that Frank Stick had done, reprints that he had done that we gave away and were very well received. We also had a table. We asked folks that came through to kind of fill out a little survey and tell us where they thought the future use of the building should be. We didn't have a great respond. I think we had, if I did the math right, 0.02% of the ticket sellers filled out a survey. But it was good to know that the majority of them felt like we are on the right track. 18 of the 23 said the idea of making the house available for affordable housing was the right track. There were a couple other good ideas. A resident artist, Frank Stick Library, a meeting space, OBX Museum, or pickleball. There's a better chance of pickleball than lifeguard housing, though. Sadly, though, Sally and Steve Gudis announced they'd no longer be planning future Flat Top tours. and they handed over the reins to Kelly Lambroff. That day, the mayor presented on behalf of the town, she presented to Sally a plaque of appreciation for all that she had done. Steve likes to say it's 90% her and 10% him, so she got all of the plaque. And then also presented a really nice, our Sergeant Matt Cook he does some woodworking, and he did a really nice cutting board with the picture of a flat top on it, and it actually had both their names, Steve and Sally Gudis. So look forward to the next event.
And they very much appreciated both of the things that the town conveyed to them, and it was very nice for me to be able to participate with the owners, so I enjoyed it very much.
Next, I want to go over the Earth Day events and thank Ida Alvarez for all of her work in coordinating this year's events. CPOA participated as well again, and I believe Carolyn Hoover would be the one that led those efforts. It was a successful week. I want to thank the SSCA for all that they did. They surpassed the number of volunteers this year, the number of volunteer hours, and they succeeded in collecting over 150 bags of debris and organic material and nearly 4,000 pounds worth. So it was a good event, good success, and accomplished what we had hoped it would. So thank you. And then finally, I wanted to ask, we've talked about doing some upgrades to the cemetery, and I wanted to see if I could get the council's okay or consensus to put together a working group. Not what you would think of as a full-blown committee, but a working group of about 8 people that could sit down at the table and go visit the site and try and come up with a plan that we could present to you all for funding. Now, as you know, we have in the cemetery fund, we've got some money that can fund this. It wouldn't take a new appropriation. But I just feel like we probably should get some input from folks that have plots there in the cemetery. We need a landscape architect there with us, somebody from the town council and a public works director, as well as the admin assistant who fields a lot of the questions about the cemetery. So if you all agree with that, we'll pursue putting that group together. And
Council, you okay with that plan?
Yeah.
And if we could have at some point, a council member, there's 2 not here that would,
I'm pretty sure Paula is going to want to do that. But
and could be 2. just
could be
can't
2,
3.
but we'll work on getting you the council representation that you need. Absolutely.
All right. Very good.
It's a great idea. Thanks, Cliff. Good evening, Philip, Town Attorney. Do you have anything for us tonight?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. We have general public comment. Is anyone signed up? We do, okay. If anyone hasn't done this before, we just ask you to come on up to the front. Tell us your name, where you live. Thomas Carroll.
Thank you, Council. I appreciate it. It's amazing how much thought I've put into this whole thing I'm about to talk about. And then I come up here and I don't know what I'm going to talk about, or what to say. I've lived on the canal. I'm talking about tonight about the treatment of the herbicidal treatment of the canals that you're going to consider tonight. I've lived on the canals for 23 years. Back before we dredged the canals, the milfoil problem in the canals was bad. Fishing was outstanding. The milfoil was choked out. You would be in a kayak and you would get caught, and it was. So they eradicated it through an herbicidal treatment. They dredged the canals. It's done. I don't see the milfoil. There is a milfoil. There are some patches of milfoil back there. But if we need treatment, what I'm asking for us to take a good look at how we're going to treat it. The proposed herbicide, or it's been used in the past, and I think it's something called 2,4-D. 2,4-D is a makeup of what was in Ancient Orange. And we all know what Ancient Orange was. 2,4-D, well, we don't know, but we remember what Ancient Orange is. 2,4-D, 245T, kerosene, and diesel fuel. It is nasty, nasty stuff. Approved by the EPA in a large lawsuit right now over that herbicide, linked to cancers and leukemia and Parkinson's disease. It is bad stuff. Bad stuff. It's bad stuff. I've talked to the state. One of the two people that are involved in this project to take care of this, Rob Edmonds, and I know they did a survey. It's a little confusing on what they did or where they went. And he said, he didn't go way back in the canals, and he did go into the big canal that would lead under the big bridge. And he said, Tommy, he said, you have some patches of milfoil back there. He said, but you don't really have that big of a problem. And a perfect application would be something called a hydro rake. There are things like, I'll call it an underwater lawnmower. And he said, your canals are the perfect application for that. I would like the council to consider to take a step back here, because I've been through. I honestly think I know as much about those canals as anybody in here. I've fished them. I'm a fisherman, and it's really not about the fish. Tom Bennett's group did an electro-fishing survey, and they found that there are no fish there, and now it's on the register that you can't take fish out of there. But there's a better way to do it. I would say there's about 5% of what there used to be. There's a better way to do it. There are grants available from the Coastal Institute. We could plant the right grass in there, naturally take care of the other grass, and we could turn it into a community project and turn that place into an oasis. It's a beautiful spot of water back there, as we all know. And I would appreciate you taking that into consideration. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone who didn't sign up would like to speak now? Okay, we have another comment period later on in the agenda. Moving on to old business. I think Cliff is going to help us out with this. Consideration of ordinance banning releases of balloons, and it's pages 6 to 9 of our books.
I don't have a whole lot more to add. As you know, the progression of this has been all thanks to Ms. Debbie Swick, who led a grassroots effort to convince towns, and this is taken off. I mean, there's beach towns across the state now are aware of what she's done and looking at doing the same thing. So I think we passed a resolution, and from there, we're here tonight. You asked us to come back with a ordinance that would prohibit the release of balloons. One of the things you asked for was that we try to coordinate and be consistent with the other towns on the Outer Banks, so that people that come visit here, they're all working under one ordinance. Half of them not knowing what town they're in. But the luck of it is, I believe we're the third town to pass one now, and Douglas first, next, Head, and then ourselves. We all share the same attorney, so they've all the same attorney, the same law firm has laid eyes on this. So I think that we're off to a good start, and we'll answer any questions that you might have.
Yeah.
Just an observation. I mean, this came up at the latest current TV meeting. So it has a lot of publicity as well as consideration in the different towns, as you mentioned. And whether we get to the same ordinance in each of the towns, that may be something that the towns are going to have to determine.
Matt? Questions, concerns? You're happy with it? I know I've spoken to Paula, and she had some wording changes that got taken care of. So I do want to mention that our very own Debbie Swick, who's here tonight giving out dog biscuits, is also the recipient of a volunteer award. She has a medallion. It looks like an Olympic medal. It's awesome. She spoke to the county commissioners this morning. I watched it on YouTube. Anyway, so a big round of applause for Debbie Swick. And I would like to make a motion that we adopt and approve the ordinance as presented.
Second.
Is there a second? A second? Any other discussion, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We now have an ordinance. Yay! You're welcome. All right. Next is new business. And we're going to start out with number 10, which is on page 23 of your packet. And I think Cliff is going to start talking to us about this.
Yes. Sheila, can you bring up that? Can I drive? No, it's okay. It doesn't like for me to drive, but we'll see. So I just wanted to start back in June of 22. I received an email from a concerned citizen about what he thought was hydrilla in the canals. Come to find out it wasn't hydrilla, it was Eurasian milfoil. And so I started looking at what this is, what it means, what can be done about it. And through a series of phone calls and, I started with the Division of Water Resources. I spoke with the North Carolina State Cooperative Extension and Sea Grant. But I ended up at the aquatic weed program under the Water Resources Division at DEQ. Had several emails, telephone calls, meetings with the SSCA and Martins Point Homeowners Association. And we received a cost proposal from, there's a reason, let's see. We received a cost proposal March 24, 2023. And that Andrew Gay is the program manager under Rob at the aquatic marine or aquatic weed program. Anyways, please find the attached cost proposal for noxious aquatic weed management in 2023. Once we receive the signed document, it will serve as the commitment from the town of Southern Shores that they agree to the 50-50 cost share arrangement and would like for us to proceed with the work. And so that work entailed you'll see a site assessment. Now, there's admittedly some confusion between a site assessment and a survey. And this has been we'll admit, a learning process for me as we go along here. But the way DEQ defines the site assessment is it's conducting a site assessment is one of the first steps of aquatic weed management project. Site assessments identify what species of plants are present and focus on things that are necessary for project planning, such as determining access points and water uses. Examples of water uses are irrigation, recreation, meaning swimming and fishing, and municipal water source. If noxious aquatic weeds are present, they will be documented, and both the size and severity of the infestation will be estimated. Aquatic weeds that float on the surface or water will be also documented. The size of the infestation is typically estimated by visual reconnaissance. And so that work, we signed that, $500 was the cost share there for us. We got here's the program invoice for that activity. They came out on June 21st. Came out again, they met with us here in the Pitt Center, went out and did a site assessment on the 22nd. And you'll see October 25th, they included a survey for Eurasian milfoil, and our town share of this ended up being $476. The survey that was done and I'll just read what we should have received that we didn't. Aquatic vegetation surveys, similar to site assessments, document noxious aquatic weeds if present at the site. Think of an aquatic vegetation survey as an inventory of plants. The survey identifies what plants are present and where those plants are growing. Depending on the goal, the survey may inventory floating plants, immersed plants, and submersed plants. Regardless of the scope, the survey is a snapshot and can serve as a baseline. So these surveys are pretty comprehensive. The program has adopted a survey methodology which involves the collection of two sets of data: physical sampling and remote sensing. Physical sampling is conducting with metal rake. The rake collects the vegetation from the bottom. Remote sensing is conducting with a recording fathometer device, which leverages sonar technology and GPS technology. From that, those two sets of data are analyzed. The outcome of the survey, the methodology generates maps that show what species of aquatic vegetation was detected, where the vegetation occurs, and the relative density. And then the outcome of the survey also estimates the total area occupied by each species of vegetation. We didn't get what they described as a survey. What we got was the site assessment. And so I asked directly what was meant by the survey that I've highlighted here. The response was, we used the results from that survey to help determine the herbicide prescription for the treatment this year. We needed to get an idea of the water volume so we would know how much herbicide to use. We were hopeful that there would still be enough milfoil to get an idea of how much coverage there was, but it was so late in the year that most of it had died off. It's a cooler water species, so it tends to die off in the late summer and early fall. And when it does, it smells. I got more concern about what the smell is than probably the actual milfoil. So I say all this, I want to point out two things. I asked Andrew if the council took a wait and see approach for the coming year, could they enter into a similar MOU next spring? His response was, the MOU is only committing the funds for the project. It doesn't mean that we are going to do all the work that is laid out in the MOU. We would work with the town to make sure that everyone is on the same page before moving forward with any of the work. If we didn't do an MOU, then no work gets done. He cautions us though and says, we don't know what requests for assistance are going to come in between now and next spring, so we can't say for certain that the money will be available next year. I also asked if he could give me the material data sheet for what is actually sprayed. This is called Sculpin G, and you'll see right up there it's 2,4-D. This is if there comes a point in time, this is information that would need to be shared. Okay, and so I'm wrapping up here. I also spoke with Robert Richardson, who is the aquatic and non-cropland weed scientist at NC State Weed Science Program. What I asked him was, his feedback was, Southern Shores could require DEQ to provide survey results prior to initiation of treatment. This is a reasonable request and could easily be added to the MOU. For pre-planning, DEQ should provide survey results and delineate likely areas of treatment. Polygons should be placed on GIS maps to show specific areas that would be treated based on surveyed I don't know why I can't say that word, infestation. Immediately before treatment, the applicator should verify that Eurasian milfoil is present within the polygons. So I asked, he's the weed specialist at NC State, and I asked him about 2,4-D. He said, used per label directions, 2,4-D should not have any direct impacts on humans, fish, or other fauna. 2,4-D may directly impact desirable plants if there are any sensitive desirable plants in the treatment area. Surveys should document presence of any desirable plants as well as the invasive species. He says there really are not good non-herbicide options. Harvesters can be used, but there's a very large bycatch with harvesters, which can include fish, invertebrates, turtles, etc., that might be present in the harvested vegetation. Then there's also a milfoil weevil, but I don't seem to think that would work very well. So having said all that, we didn't get the survey that I think you all would need to have before moving forward with this. Conversations that I had with some of you is you want to see the survey, you want to see the document, and that doesn't exist. There was a site assessment. DEQ said, yeah, we'll work with you to treat this, but I think we need to consider that. In addition to what's in the package, we should consider getting a full-blown survey. But as Dr. Richardson said, here's some other alternatives. You could do nothing and live with it. We could take a wait and see approach this coming summer and see what conditions are like and then reevaluate. Or we could enter into the MOU that's in your packet, but only for the site, site survey with the full-blown document to tell us how bad the problem actually is and what needs to be done. So, you know, I lay all that out there because I felt like there were other options that weren't in the packet that you needed to consider. That assessment probably being the main one, but the other options I lay out, and this, you know, like I said, you can do what's in the packet. You could delay this until after a season to see how bad it is. You can enter into an MOU to do the survey now, or do nothing and live with it.
In the survey, for simplicity's sake, is there something like, like a scale of 1 to 5 where yes, 1 is you have it, and then 5 is really, really bad milfoil and it'll clog, propellers and boats and whatever else, and it's choking out any sort of other vegetation. Something that's a little bit more palatable to citizens in Southern Shores to say, yeah, we really have a bad problem in X, Y, and Z canal.
I don't know about the scale. I know that with the methodology that they list out,
Right.
as far as the results of, on a scale of 1 to 5, how bad it is. I have seen a survey. The report that they give, it does what it said. It plots it out. Here's where it is and here's where it needs to be treated. And these are the spots we're going to treat. But I don't know that there's a scale.
And secondly, if you go over on the map on page 30, there's a section which includes about 12 acres that really abuts Martins Point. And if in fact we did anything, would it be appropriate to cost share a little bit with Martins Point? If we go down a little further, it's a little purple. It was in the book, it turned into purple. There it is.
Well, I think the answer is yes. If we present, if we get the survey back and we sit down and we say, this is yours, this is mine, this is how we're going to, attack this. But, Martin's, I don't know how many acres we figured the actual creek is. But, there's approaches that could be done there. And if let's say they were to treat it around the dock there, they would pay for that if that's a decision they made. So I'm not there yet.
Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big undertaking, and I think there's some apprehension.
Do we have any idea of how much the survey would cost?
It would the same $1,000. It would cost us
$1,000,
$500 to do the survey.
$500 for the survey. And we would actually get a product.
Yes,
We'd actually
ma'am.
get something that represents data.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's 3.4 of the MOU.
Yeah, and that can, that MOU could be reworded to be pretty specific. And that the aquatic vegetation survey, which in this MOU came after, they typically do the surveys after treatment so they can see how effective it is. But in this case, 3.4 probably should have been 3.1. And so if we did the survey, this is how I would suggest wording the MOU, and DEQ has seen this. But y'all have it. So, this, it doesn't, I could put this back out on the December agenda. June agenda, and they can still do the survey in time.
I think that would have value. And then the other question, is somebody from DEQ available to speak to the council?
Or even remote speak,
Yeah.
speak, they don't have to travel. Just be able to talk to them like,
I could do both. I don't know which, from a sense of who's going to have the most valid, credible answers that folks are going to hear. Dr. Richardson would be willing to come, and again,
Well, maybe he would be a better choice.
he is the William H. Culpepper Distinguished Professor of Aquatic Weed Science, Aquatic and Non-Cropland Weeds Science. He's the co-chair of the North Carolina State University Weed Science Program and Crop and Soil Science Department. So he would, I think, provide some.
He'd be the guy.
information.
I'd be curious to do the survey and then have him help us interpret the survey.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's the window for doing the survey?
It would be June to August
Yeah,
is when.
the height
we
of
could
summer
get
and
it.
the gross.
Height of summer, okay. So could we postpone deciding about the survey until we have a full council and do it in June?
Yes, ma'am.
And then could we, in the meantime, try to get the guy, I'm sorry, Dr.
Richardson.
to either remotely speak with us or visit us? Okay. I would be more comfortable with that because I feel like we only have 3 council members here tonight, and I feel like we have some strong feelings by the 2 that aren't able to be with us tonight. People have talked to them, people have called them, people have emailed them. I just, if we can put it off till June, that would be my preference.
Okay.
But I think I'm leaning towards, we're not going to do anything till we know what the scope of the problem is. And we
Yeah.
certainly, in order to do that, we need to have the survey done, clearly. We also need to communicate out with our folks, what the problem is, because, people are not going to want us to address a problem if it doesn't exist
It's not a problem.
to, the extent that it's a problem. I know we have some people here, I think, interested in speaking on this issue. I know this is a little not according to the agenda, but since we're speaking about milfoil and what our ideas are, does anybody want to speak now that was going to save their comments for the next general comment period? Oh, wait, one at a time, guys. John Finelli.
Yep.
Tell us your name and where you live, sir.
I'm John Finelli. I'm a resident of Martins Point. I've been boating on Gingite Creek and back in the Southern Shores canals every year since 1969. So I've seen the milfoil issue. Back in the 70s, there were a few years where it absolutely choked out Gingite Creek. I mean, you could not run an outboard in the creek. And it was so bad that it was shore to shore in Currituck Sound north of Duck. So it was pretty stunning. And that was actually on the creek when the helicopter came by sometime in the mid-70s and dropped pellets of the 2,4-D, which eradicated the milfoil. I've always been under the impression that salt water kind of knocks it down because I hadn't seen really bad milfoil for a long time. But last year was the worst year I've seen in 40 years, and that water was fairly salty. But in the middle of the summer, it was shore to shore in Gingite Creek. I mean, that's your survey. And it was significant in the main canal and Southern Shores. I didn't ride back through all the smaller canals. I have no idea what this coming year is going to bring. But last year was really significant. It affects the boating, and then the stuff dies, and you get the sulfur smell, so it's not really a good thing. And I was with Rob Emmons when he did his survey, but like Cliff said, it was late in the season. The milfoil was pretty much died off, so they were not really surveying the existing milfoil. They were surveying the water volume and the depths so they could figure out how to treat this stuff. So just a little historical perspective.
Thanks, John. Anybody else? Mike, come on up. Tell us your name and where you live, please, sir.
Garacito. I live in Southern Shores. So anyway, as Cliff was talking about before, we had meetings. I was part of those meetings from the Civic Association when I was on the board. So for you who don't know what milfoil is, it's a aquatic plant that people used to put in their fish tanks. And if you're very familiar with palm trees, or not palm trees, I'm sorry, but bamboo, it's like bamboo. It's an invasive species and it just keeps growing. Last year was horrible. I had a watercraft. I had to clean it out 7 times because the milfoil was that bad. I'm on a canal. It backs up on my canal when it dies. The smell is sewer gas. Okay. And as we talked about before, you have these other options about, taking the ground out underneath. Now you're into major CABA permit issues. So I would just say that it's not going to get better. It's starting to bloom now. It'll die from the heat, and then it'll start sewer gassing all over the canals. So that's it. So please consider at least doing the survey or assessment, I guess. Survey, whichever it is that Cliff brought up. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Anybody else? Tommy, make it short. Second bite at the apple.
I can appreciate what you guys are saying, John. I'm not familiar with out in Jingai Creek. That's not where I'm talking about. Mike, maybe back in your pocket, but I've been in those canals for 23 years, and there's no doubt. I know there's some milfoil back there, but I think it's only pockets. Before they eradicated it, it was unbelievable how thick it was. So I'd like to take a look at, of course, get the survey. Let's look at some natural things. As far as harvesting it and hurting the wildlife, and I've talked to the harvesters, if it was choked out like it used to be, like John had mentioned, then you're going in and there's fish in it and everything else. When you have patches like that, it's going to scatter. It's just not that bad. Again, John, I have no idea. I can't speak to your area over there. But let's not remember that. Let's not. If we could we post that lawsuit possibly on the website, or you can look at it, the 24D website. It is. You know how lawsuits go. There is a big deal going on. They did a survey in Indiana not a survey, a study that 100% of the pregnant women in the study had it in their urine. It's nasty stuff. So you're talking about wildlife, you're talking about bird shells and everything. And it's a 105-page lawsuit, but there are articles that give you an idea of what it is. So we need to consider the wildlife. We need to consider more than just the smell. And I get it. But there's good weeds to put back there, good flowers to put back there. Then I think people will come forward. How it used to be, it was unbelievable. It was choked out, like John is mentioning in there. I went to all the spots there, the marina, all the side roads. It's just nothing. I'd say that my estimation that's 5% of what it used to be. So understand. You might have a bad spot behind your
Okay.
place, Mike. So I get it. But
Thanks, Tommy.
let's take a look. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, there's yet another general comment period in case you guys want to talk about some other stuff. Okay, so I think where we landed was proceed with a survey. Where we landed was put it on the June agenda. Very specific for what we want. Okay? Council, did I get that right? Everybody good? Okay.
Table till June.
All right, here we go. Moving on. I am now going to hand the meeting over to our attorney, Philip, for a public hearing on ZTA 2305.
Thank you, Mayor. I now open the public hearing for ZTA-23-05 regarding lot width and call Ms. Haskins to the podium.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Hornthal. Good evening again, Mayor, members of council. The next item on your agenda is to consider ZTA-23-05. This application is a proposal from town staff to amend the town's current minimum lot width requirements in all of the residential zoning districts and the government and institutional district by removing the definition of building setback line and adding the definition of lot width line in section 30-2 and 36-57, which is a line established 25 feet from the front lot line or the point where the lot is 50, 75, or 100 feet wide, whichever district requirement is applicable and whichever distance is closer to the front lot line. The proposed amendments also add the definition of yard exactly as it's used in section 36-57 in the zoning ordinance to section 30-2 in the subdivision ordinance, and also established in section 30-124 in the subdivision ordinance that the proposed lot width line and proposed yard shall be shown on preliminary plats. The proposed amendments also include a new definition of lot width, which is the width of a lot at the required lot width line. Lastly, the proposed amendments include amendments to sections 36-202D2, 203D2, 204D2, 205D2, and 206D2 that establish that the lot width line is the measuring point for lot width for lots created after June 6, 2023. So basically, we're proposing to eliminate using building setback line as a measuring point for lot width, for lots created after June 6, 2023. Town staff has determined that the proposed amendments are consistent with the town's currently adopted land use plan. The town planning board unanimously recommended approval of the application at their April 15th planning board meeting. However, town staff has recently determined that the proposed amendments would most likely allow scenarios that were not discussed at the April 15th planning board meeting. As a result, town staff is now requesting another planning board discussion prior to council taking action on this application. And that is if council still wishes to amend the town's currently adopted lot width requirements. The planning board has discussed this several times at this point. There have been several revisions. It's gone back and forth with the town attorney several times as well. We've put a lot of time and effort into it. Unfortunately, I don't think it's at a point tonight where we still recommend approval of it. So we request additional thought and additional discussion at this time.
Wes, I just, when I read through all of that, it kind of reminded me when you were in grammar school and you had a word problem. And you were trying to diagram out the word problem. Is there any way you can put some graphics in that so that would say, okay, here's kind of like the old ordinance or whatever, zoning, and all of the appropriate portions of the code, and then what the new one would look like. And then that way it's a visual representation and it might be a little bit easier to digest.
Yes, sir. And I had planned on having visual aids for this hearing tonight, but
Since you're
as
postponing-
of recently, we've changed our position. So if and when it does come back to you all, I would be glad to show illustrations that try to show what we're proposing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other, whoops, sorry, Philip, you're running.
Are there any other questions for staff? Thank you, Mr. Astor.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here signed up to speak on this issue or anyone that would like to speak? Hearing none, I now close the public hearing.
Thank you, Philip. So staff is requesting basically to take another stab at it. Thoughts, Matt?
I don't think there's any rush to put this through. I mean, this is a little bit of verbal gymnastics than what we've ended up with. I think, although it attempts to meet our goal, I don't think we need to rush anything through that's got some lack of clarity to it, so.
And also, we're 3 instead of 5 council members. I know I'm repeating myself, but, just it's meaningful that we have 2 folks that weren't able to be with us tonight. This only applies to new subdivisions, correct, Wes? Or recombinations. So what we're intending to do is not end up with lots that look like something that we don't want them to end up looking like. So that's the goal, and sometimes that's easier said than done. We do have large areas of the town that are capable of being new subdivisions, and we want to be able to end up with something that we all like. So I think getting it right is the most important end goal here.
And I would say those owners can present their own zoning text amendments to accommodate whatever they might be trying to achieve there. So that's why I don't think there's a rush to necessarily push something through. And I don't know it needs to bog down the planning board agenda in the near future either. I'd like to table it for a little bit. Let's gestate.
So we have a motion to table it?
Motion to table?
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. We'll get back to it. Thank you. Thanks, Wes. Okay. Way down on the list is the manager's budget. But we're finally here. Cliff.
Okay. All right, so presented for your consideration is the town manager's recommended budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2024 through June 30, 2025, which has been prepared in accordance with North Carolina Local Government Fiscal Control Act as required by North Carolina General Statute, Chapter 159-11. This budget is a result of a great deal of hard work from all staff, and particularly Finance Officer Bonnie Swain. Thank you. So I don't want to go through this and read it word for word. It'll be on the website tomorrow. But I do want to hit a few points, and then I want to show you what we have as the digital budget book. And I'm going to jump to page 3 of the manager's message at the top, budget overview for fiscal year 24-25. It reads, this year's general fund budget totals $12,773,492. And this is an increase of just over $3 million or 31.26%. Nearly 70% of this increase is accounted for in the $2.1 million for the Juniper culvert. So $3 million growth of 36%. It's because of the $2.1 million project. Under fund balance, I did want to also point out that this year's budget is balanced with 2.9 fund balance appropriation. And again, a large part of that is because of the culvert, but the remaining amount of fund balance recommended to be, if you take that out and take out the $380,000 we have budgeted for as an amount for the improvements to town hall, that leaves $438,771 of fund balance that's being used to balance the budget. We have in the past, 2 out of the last 5 years, we've used fund balance to balance the budget. But at the end of the year, revenues always exceed expenditures, and I'm not sure the last time we actually had to use fund balance to balance. So that can be a little misleading. But if the budget, the use of fund balance is spent as recommended, the remaining fund balance would still be $1,911,555 on top of $3.5 million that you have earmarked as untouchable, except from the event of an emergency or disaster. Other capital projects that are included in this recommendation is the Hickory Trail, $290,400, which includes $118,855 grant from the Outer Banks Tourist Bureau, and that's the path on west side of NC 12 from East Dogwood to Hickory. We've got $150,000 in here for maintenance and repair of the existing multi-use path, mainly north of the Hillcrest Drive area. And as previously noted, $380,000 is for potential improvements to Town Hall. I will jump again to page 5, personnel. The budget does not include any new positions or requested new positions. Their merit funds are budgeted at $65,000. Increases are budgeted at a maximum of 2.5, depending on performance evaluations. COLA is recommended at 4% for each employee at a cost of $80,000. There have been increases to the mandatory contributions and state retirement, increasing from 12.88% to 13.88% for general employees and 14.1 to 15.04 for law enforcement. We were looking at a significant increase in our health insurance. As a result of that, we went out and shopped other potential healthcare providers. If we'd stayed, we're recommending that we make a switch here to Aetna Health. If we stay where we are, the town would see an 8% increase if we stay with the same vendor. But the change were similar benefits, but it'll result in a 6.7% decrease in premiums. It's not, I mean, that seems great, but usually when you switch, you can anticipate them getting caught up at some point. And it's just kind of the game that's played. The cafeteria plan that the town offers is a great benefit. It's $700 per month for dependent coverage. We're asking for a 3.57% increase, or $25 a month to $725. And I'm not scrolling, am I? You can see on page 6, the general fund summary here listed as the increases, you can see the actual revenue that has come in for years 21, 22, 22, 23, the amended amount for the current year, what we're requesting, the percent change, as well as the forecasted amount that we're predicting needing or coming in 25 and 26. At the bottom of that, I don't think it's on this page, but you can see that 1 cent in a tax increase now generates $169,511. From there, you can see on page 7 the revenues. I like to always point out the two main sources of revenue for us are the ad valorem taxes and occupancy sales and land transfer. The county will be doing a reevaluation of taxes and property taxes not coming, but the next fiscal year. So we can anticipate, from what I understand, as much as a 40% increase in the cost property value. The middle graph there shows what our tax rates have, and they've been historically unchanged until the beach nourishment project. You can see what the tax rates have been since fiscal year 12 up until we made the changes, and you'll see in 14 was a reval, and then of course another reval in 21, and that's when the beach nourishment tax was put into place. The black line on the far right, the arrow going down, shows you that because that rate has stayed flat, our percent increase, our percent of shares of sales, occupancy, land transfer has steadily gone down. And you can see that one increase in the beach nourishment, you can see that little bit of red, but you can see that it does generate additional revenue when your taxes are raised. So on to page 8, as listed by department, the expenditures that were requested. Streets, bridges, and canals are the largest line item, followed by police and administration. You can see on the far right there, the growth of the general fund expenditures from 21 until present. Let's see, and then could have probably just started with, there is no new tax increase being proposed in this recommended budget. That's probably the thing folks want to know the most. And you can see there the expenditures by department. We break it out to show you each year, and they're split out by the expenditures by department and then expenditures by contracted services. So the recommended budget will be posted on the town's website. It'll be available for inspection at Town Hall by contacting the town clerk. We're asking the public hearing to receive citizen comment and feedback be recommended to be set on the June 4th council agenda. And I wanted to, we'll also provide you with a link to our budget book, a digital budget book. And I just wanted to take a minute, and I'm not going to go page by page here, but I did want to share a little, kind of help you start navigating this. This is a little more interactive way of looking at the budget. It starts with some introduction, a history of the city. It has demographic information. Tells you the number of households that we have. Tell you the population, like for instance, family households, 73%, higher than the state average. List the economic analysis that came, and I'm sorry, this is really temperamental. Medium home value, 12% rent. It'll tell you the household income, how many folks we have over certain salaries. We're significantly higher than the state average for folks above 200, significantly lower than the state average for folks below 25,000. So in the budget overview, let me go to fund summaries here. In the general fund, gosh, this is tough. Yeah, let me the mouse. Thank you. All right, so in the fund summaries, in the general fund, there. All right, so you can see the this is kind of interactive. You'll see in the 2024, if you scroll over it, how much budgeted revenue we've seen so far, budget expenditures. I like this. It only occurs in year 23, but you can see the actual revenue above what we budgeted in 23, and then the actual expenditures, the budget expenditures and the actual expenditures. And you can see with the green line being the revenue, for years, the revenue has exceeded expenditures, which we've been very fortunate for. But in 24 and 25, because of the decline we're experiencing in land transfer and sales and occupancy, I think you'll start to see that go kind of leveling out some. In this budget book, you can see the line item budgets for each item requested. You can see the revenue by source. Again, this kind of tells you how important occupancy, sales, and land transfer is to our budget. Makes up 31% of the revenue. And ad valorem taxes almost equal and make up 34% of our budget. Here, you can actually change this to do a dollar amount or a percentage. And this will show you again, kind of a stacked it up, 34% ad valorem, 31% land transfer, and so on. And again, if you want to dig into it, you can get into the spreadsheet. Expenditures by function, this will kind of show you, again, because of the bridge, and you know, we have $1 million of street improvements in this budget. So that takes a big chunk of our budget. And then there's also some historical data. Under the departments, you can dig into each one of them. I'll just pick administration. You can see in admin, the budget's $1.5 million. That's 15.17% above the prior year. You can again scroll and see the growth in the budget from year to year, actual versus budgeted. Expenditures, the salaries make up 48% of our budget and operating expenses 35%. And then again, you can budgeted historical expenditures by expense type. Some of the other things other than departments, you can find under fund summaries, the cemetery fund, information on the capital reserve fund, and information on beach nourishment. Also under the introduction, there's, if you find the organizational chart, you'll find out town council and what their role is. You'll find all of our financial policies for bidding and purchasing, and a short review of the previous fiscal year. And then the manager's message and the economic factors that impact us all here on the Outer Banks. So hopefully this budget book will get people a little more, at least spend time messing with it and looking at it and start to dig in more. Bonnie had to tackle, and all the staff had to tackle a new way of implementing the budget this year to get to this point. So I thank them for their patience. And if you have any questions, you just got the budget, so you've got to dig into it, but hopefully that covers the gist.
Well, and we certainly spent some time with it in April. Plus, we've spent some time with it over the whole fiscal year because we've requested that we touch base with you periodically about the budget, and you've done that. So I would say the few minutes I watched of the county commissioners' budget presentation, their COLA was also 4%. And they also did not raise taxes.
But yes.
So similar to what the county's doing, I guess is my point. Any questions for Cliff, Matt, Rob? So the link is going to be shared with everyone.
That's correct.
Okay. It's pretty fancy.
We're getting there.
Thanks, Cliff.
All right.
Appreciate
Thank
it. All right. Next is the consideration of bid award for the Skyline Road Sidewalk Project, page 20.
Okay, so we've been talking about the Skyline Road sidewalk. When we did the meeting to get input from the public about where they'd like to see paths and sidewalks and so forth, really came down to improving what we already have, which is in the budget, and an improvement on Skyline Road from a sidewalk on the north side from the Spindrift cut through down to Ocean Boulevard. We bid this informally. We opened bids, I think the week before last. So what we're asking for is for you to allow me to enter into a contract with the low bid. It's a lump sum contract, $79,600. Well, with contingency, would put it at 85. The budget amendment that you've got in front of you takes some savings from the pavement plan year one, as well as some merit savings. So we're asking for you all to approve this so we can get started on getting this sidewalk put in.
Very good. Questions for Cliff about the Skyline sidewalk?
This is from the connector path to,
Yeah.
it's not the whole length of it.
No,
No.
it's just from that Spindrift cut through.
I thought I knew that. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
There's a picture of it.
All right. I didn't bring that up.
Yeah, no, I get it. No, I think this is gonna make it safer for people to get, well, from Spindrift over to the Beach Road, and then also the folks along Skyline. So I think it's a good plan. Let's see, we need a motion to award the sidewalk project, correct?
And to approve the budget amendment.
And to approve the budget amendment. So I will make that motion.
Second.
And we have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Cliff.
The other thing I would just wanted to point out is that we're working with the CPOA. They have asked us whether or not we consider taking over the maintenance of the sidewalks on Trinity, Spindrift, and Chickahawk. And so we bid what we thought the improvement cost would be. That was also included in this. We're not asking for any expenditure at this time. We're going to keep working with CPOA to try and come up with a resolution that is fair and equitable. So that may be coming back to you soon,
Okay,
but that's on hold for now.
all right. Public comment? Anyone want to speak to us? Seeing none. Council business. I know our next council meeting is Tuesday, June the 4th at 5:30. I was just going to say a couple words about the Housing Task Force. They talked about it at the commissioners meeting today. Make sure everyone understands that the legislature in their technical corrections bill that's been signed or that's been voted on by both the Senate and the House is now sent to the governor for his signature. He has a certain amount of time. He can either sign it or not. There's a veto-proof majority, so if he doesn't sign it, it will just become law. And in that technical corrections bill, the zoning prohibition part of, I think it's called HB 259, has been repealed, and the $35 million grant has been repealed. So both of those actions have been taken, but the Housing Task Force continues on. I think Matt is going to be on a subcommittee, and I'm going to be on a subcommittee. I'm going to be working on sort of the nonprofit / housing authority kind of end of it, and Matt's going to be working on
It's a broad brief. Plan and
development,
feasibility,
and maybe even get into,
housing pictures.
yeah, okay. So as far as we know, we're still going to be doing some Housing Task Force work, but it's just not going to be related to the $35 million grant because that's gotten repealed. So that's what I wanted to say. Rob?
Cliff and I are going over to Kitty Hawk Elementary School next week and going to talk to third graders about what local government does. We will probably be schooled by the kids, but we're going to go over there and give it the college try and try to explain the difference between federal, state, local, county. And we'll try to frame some questions that actually maybe the kids can identify with, like if you ride your bike on a sidewalk, who pays for that? If your parents drive on the roads in Southern Shores, who pays for that? Does that come out of your allowance? No, so on and so forth. So Cliff and I have met, and we've kind of have a little plan put together, and we'll see, we'll run it up the flagpole and see if it works. Secondly, attended a Current TV meeting. There are more and more videos put out, and for the public out there, there's the icon on the Southern Shores homepage that you can access all of the videos that the different towns put out. I proposed a crazy idea, and it seemed to get some traffic, and there'll be more on it, but that I think we should have a Dare County Film Festival. And the film festival would not be limited to just what the towns put out on Current TV, but it will also involve, let's say, productions from K through 12 education, the College of the Albemarle Coastal Studies Institute. So it received actually quite a bit of support, and we'll see if it's at all feasible, and we'll go from there.
That's great. Thanks, Rob. Matt?
Nothing beyond what we already discussed.
Okay. All right, then. I think we've come to the end. Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
We're adjourned. Thank you.